Kia ora koutou. My name's Sarah Wilson and I'm the project leader for Pest-Free Banks and Peninsula. I get the lollipop. So, thanks Soph. Just loading up my presentation there. So, if you want to just go through to the next slide. So, Pest-Free Banks Peninsula is essentially a 14-way partnership here in Canterbury between councils, DOC, landowners, NGOs, and it's facilitated by the Banks Peninsula Conservation Trust, who employ myself and John, who are here tonight. Our sort of kaupapa, our mantra is that we are community-led and agency-supported. So this is very much a community initiative, runanga initiative, people on the ground initiative, and we get the councils and government to provide us money and resources so that we can do things. Next one, thank you. So in essence, we've been funded at this stage about $10 million over the next 5 years to work in two key elimination areas. So we're looking at not just pest control, but pest or predator elimination. So the first main area is in what we call the extended wild side, or this big portion, sort of the Akaroa side of Banks Peninsula. 23,000 hectares. We're focusing on elimination of possums and suppression of mustelids, feral cats, and a limited number of rats. Well, I don't know about a limited number, there's plenty of rats, but we'll have less impact on rats over there in key areas of biodiversity. But kind of the main area for tonight's talk really is around Kaitariti and what we're doing there. And that we're focusing on an elimination project here, which this area over in Taumuti area is really critical as a kind of a gateway to that Kaitariti. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Thanks. So that kind of summarises. So just one of the other things on Kaitariti, what over that 5,000 hectares, what we're trying to do is actually not really been done almost anywhere in New Zealand apart from on islands. There's a few other projects that are similar, but the number of species there, 6, that we're trying to eliminate, get rid of down to levels of functional extinction are possums, feral cats, the 3 mustelids, stoats, weasels, and I accidentally said ferals at one public meeting, which wasn't very good. No, it's ferrets, and hedgehogs, which are a biggie. They choke up your traps. We call it chogs, because they choke up the hogs that choke up the trap. But anyway, hedgehogs are also a target on Kaitariti. Thanks. So that's some of our local team that we've built up. They've been with us basically over the last year. And there's some that actually aren't with us anymore in that picture, but largely that's about the kind of number on our team, working both across on the wild side and on Kaitariti. Thanks, Siv. So, sort of at a big picture level, if you can sort of, it's not hard to get a picture of if you're trying to really achieve things across Kaitariti. Then there's 2 main doorways, if you like, to predators making their way back in or reinvading or arriving on the spit. They're either through this end, the wide end, or actually over here where we are, and coming across those sands, and that's because it's mostly open. It's it's mostly closed. It's not open very often, and animals make their way across there and onto the main part of Kaitariti. So clearly you've got lake and sea on 2 sides, which is a good start, but those 2 ends are really critical to us being successful. So we're sort of we really wanted to start the project down the kind of the pointy end here and get our systems and things right, but really we have to close the door here with a reasonable suppression project before we can really get going on Kaitariti. Thanks. So this is a picture of John, who's going to speak just briefly after me, setting up some AT220, they're self-resetting traps. We've got a bunch of traps on the back table there. You're more than welcome after this to go and have a look and see what the technology and the toys are. And that's an automatic self-resetting trap, so it only goes off at night. It's got a lockout mechanism during the day, so fingers or sheep or dogs or cats or other things that are happening during the day don't get caught in it. But at night, it's open for business. It's got an automatic lure that gets dispensed during the day, each day. And there's a ramp there, and the possums go up and put their heads in, and bang, it acts a lot like a traditional DOC 200, but then a little motor opens it up so it's ready for business for another customer. And you can see that we have a couple of happy customers, or maybe unhappy customers, at the bottom of the device. So it's very effective as something that we can set up with the landowner's permission. And if it's high enough, the stock don't get at it, and it's just constantly working away without having to go back and check, see if it's caught something, which is a very effective one of the tools that we're using in the landscape. Thanks, Soph. So in Taumotu, in this area particularly, we've been working very much with the local community, definitely with the marae manager and those at Fisherman's Point and the landowners in and around that area. I'll show you a map in a minute. But over the last year, they have done the trapping, not us. We've just provided them the traps and the bait. And, they've had a really great success rate particularly with feral cats, which they've caught in live cage traps and then dispatched once they're really clear that it's a feral cat, not a local moggy, going in for a visit. And because we're not interested in killing domestic cats, we're just focusing on the feral cats. And there's a number of possums in those traps I just described, and lots of hedgehogs. So as a result, the marae manager, Katrina, was telling us that they've been hearing bittern booming, and just the anecdotal evidence of kiraru around the marae is really gone up. So that's awesome, even at not a scientific level, but at a story level, that's awesome. Thank you. So this is a sort of a rough picture of our current traps, and we've got some cameras out as well, some infrared cameras, which give us a good idea of what's present. And you can see we've got an array of traps, particularly in and around Fisherman's Point and around there. If I'm pointing at the right place, see there's some cloud there. And then also coming out through onto the spit itself, and I'll talk a little bit more about that briefly. Thanks, Soph. I've got a wee video here of... where is this taken, John? John took it.
It's obviously too record, but you're just close to Fisherman's Point.
Just close to Fisherman's Point. So this is, you can see there's a cat making its way. It's a reasonably big fella. Didn't know that John was there. There's the trap. Uh-oh. And off. Back into the...
So what happened there?
Saw John, I think.
Oh, that was me. I just made a small sound and then suddenly realised I was there and noticed me.
So, these are some of they're pretty big cats. And the ones that I do have a picture of some of the ones that the locals dispatched, but I decided it may not be very palatable, a public meeting. But they're very fat, and these are the feral locals. They're not short of things to eat, many of which are some of the native birds and other things that we really don't want them to eat. Thank you. So on Kaiteriti itself, we're really gearing up operations there. I'll let John talk a little bit more about this, but it's, in essence, every one of those green dots on this map here is a trap with various kinds of devices on it that tell us when it's gone off. And there's just a picture of some of the team with the team leader, Tim Schoberg, demonstrating one of the live cage traps and how it's working. So our plan is to really intensely work along the spit, bit by bit, chunk by chunk, and eliminate the species that we talked about. So I'll hand over to John now. This is a picture of him next to our electric motorbike. I'll pass over to John. John, you might just want to talk a little bit about some of the things that are happening locally, as well as some of the tools on Kaitoriti.
Well, I can't really add a hell of a lot to that. That was a pretty comprehensive description of what we're doing. I don't know how many of you have been out onto Kaitoriti. I mean, a lot of people they kind of vaguely know it's there, but they never go out there. And if you don't really know much about it, it does look like a bit of a wasteland. That's what I thought when I first went out there. But once you start to know a bit more about the biodiversity that's actually there, it's a pretty special place. People who know their birds tell us that it's one of the best hotspots for biodiversity in the whole country. So there's a lot of stuff there to protect. But anyway, what we want to focus on here now is, as Sarah said, the buffer we have here. Basically, we can get rid of all the things off Kaitoriti, but if they're still coming out of here, and this place is infested, there's that cat. I mean, there's a lot of cats around here, ferrets, stoats, weasels, everything's out here, all heading towards Kaitoriti for a feed. So basically, to make a buffer work here, we need the local people to be involved with this. We need landowners who want to have traps on their property. I don't know, there's obviously some landowners here tonight, which is good. We're not kind of getting traps quite this far out from the mouth of the lake, but we'd like to think that we will sort of slowly move out if the project's successful. And the further out we can go, the better chance we have of stopping things getting onto Kaitoriti.
I want to know more about that cat.
That's the Taumutu panther. Yep, he's a big fella. We haven't caught him as far as we know. The cats they're very cryptic animals. Like, I mean, I've spent a lot of time around here putting out traps and things, and that's the first cat I've seen during the day. But when we've had cameras out, as Sarah said, you can set a camera, walk away, and when you go back and look at that footage, 10 minutes after you left, there's a cat, looking at the camera. So they're there, they know you're there, and they just totally keep out of sight. So, I mean, on Kaitoriti itself, recently we did a leg holding pulse with Doc. Not you guys, but some of the other Doc colleagues. I've never seen a feral cat out on Kaitoriti in all the time, and I've been out there a lot, and next thing we've caught 20, so they are everywhere. And if you don't, people around here even, they'll sometimes say, there's no feral cats here, and it's like, yeah, but that's because you won't see them.